I just watched a DCH video, and in that video he essentially implies that Albrecht Intrati is trying to undo everything that he did. I've got a problem with that whole theory. You see, in that theory essentially it boils down to Albrecht Intrati is trying to undo everything by going to the void, by exposing the indifference to the universe and everything that came with that. Albrecht is nowhere to be found. Nobody knows where he is and what he's up to. And I have a theory as to why that is. So stick around and let's actually get into it. Alright, so Albrecht Intrati is a sly person. I almost said something very mean and otherwise, but that's not what I'm going to be doing today. We're going to focus on Albrecht and what his plans are for the whole Warframe universe. Now, as you guys know, and if you guys know me, I am one of those people that think that it's always Intrati. He is behind essentially everything that has happened thus far.
I mean, in that matter, yes, but Bella's always been a piece of shit too.
And like DC's video kinda hinted at, Albrecht Intrati, he made a mistake. He knew he made a mistake, so his plan was to undo all of the mistakes that he made, e.g. going into the void, exposing the world to the indifference or the man in the wall as you might know him, and also the entire Orokin Empire. Now this would be absolutely huge if this is true. If this is the case that Albrecht Intrati is willing to give up his own existence, the existence of the entire Orokin race, the existence of the indifference or at least the discovery thereof, and the void, the Zariman, the 10-0 or all the Tenno kids.
The cost is too much to be considered a good intention.
If he's willing to give all of that up for the good of the future, then kudos on him. He is much more of a good guy than I thought he originally was. But
Your Honor, my client just committed some oopsie daisies.
I don't think that is the case. Actually, I think the opposite is true. I think he is still trying to use us and use everything around him to his advantage so that he can do what he wants to. Remember, Albrecht is gone. He disappeared. There's nowhere where he actually is, and nobody knows what he's up to. So here's my theory and here's my thought. Albrecht is using us as a decoy. He's using Deviri as a decoy, Major Rusalka, Nessie Rusalka as a decoy, and the whole Isleweaver update kinda explains and proves that as well. The Indifference and Major Nessie Rusalka is now in a situation where they are reliving a time loop as in Deviri.
I'm highly against this theory, because the Albrecht's purpose is to seal man in the wall away. There is no power we have to destroy it. Our only option is to contain him. And Wally knows about Duviri because he was the one to create it in the first place. So if he's stuck in the time loop, then that's the end. We won. There is no point of going in the tower.
If it's the same Deviri or if it's not, we don't know. But at the end of the day, the Indifference is in that time loop. The Indifference was also in 1999. And the Indifference kind of follows along the Drifter, and I think there's nowhere where the Drifter can actually hide because of the fact that we use void powers, or the power of the Indifference, if you want to think about it that way, to do what we do. So I think that leaves traces, or at least makes us kind of live in symbiosis with the Indifference at the very least. The thing is, while all of this is happening, and while Dr. Intrati just disappeared, we don't know what he's up to. Except for the fact that at the end of Warframe 1999, Dr. Intrati told us, or asked us, however, do we want to go with him to the Tau? And we said no. We want to save the Protoframes. So does that not suggest then that Dr. Intrati is now on his way to the Tau system? And if he's using the void to traverse between the different systems, or go from one system to another system, then what would be the best way to get the Indifference not to stop you, or to be able to have the time to actually study what you need to do to actually go through that?
I mean, we have Kaya, the Nova Protoframe. At least for Drifter. I don't know about Operator or Owl Lotus.
Create a decoy. And what better decoy would there be than the Drifter? What better decoy would there be than using Deviri as a whole as a decoy? All of the stories, all of the manipulation, everything points to this. So I think that Dr. Intrati is using us and the Indifference and Major Nestor Osaka and all the proto frames and everything that he's done so far and that has happened so far as one major decoy so that he can actually go to his ventures or adventures and research the Void and research how to use the Void to go to the Tau system. Or maybe he already figured it out and he actually went there already, or is on his way there at the very least. What do you guys think? Do you think that that is even a possibility? Or if I am wrong, let me know where I am wrong.
I don't think us or Duviri can be a decoy for him. One thing we have to remember is Archimedean Yonta told us she had a dream about Albrecht Entrati, telling her he's everywhere. Assuming that this Albrecht in her dream was actually Wally, means Wally always knows where Albrecht is. When Lloyd helped him to send him back in the 1999, he didn't just went back to the past. It's entirely different timeline, yet Wally followed him over there. So I don't think this is true either.
So obviously I can get corrected. I want to get as close to the truth as humanly possible, but I can't get to the truth without having all of the facts. So if you guys know anything that I don't, let me know in the comment section down below. Now, let's move on to the man in the wall. There's something that I wanted to share with you guys, something that I thought about while also watching BCG's video. There is a clip where you see the giant head of the man in the wall kind of coming down where Lotus and the Drifter or the operator is, right? And then all of a sudden you see the evil or the other version of the operator on top of the man of the wall kind of being all chummy, right? What if that whole thing, the whole face and that huge monumental thing is not the man in the wall, but rather just a representation of somebody else? I said this in my previous video as well. I think that the Indifference, or how we perceive the Indifference, might just be a direct copy of the emotions of Albrecht Intrati.
I mean, what you're saying is true. Wally is the manifestation of Albrecht's emotions, but if you're implying that what we saw at the end of the New War is somewhat a shadow clone jutsu of Wally, then that's not true. Wally says in the Zariman that our Drifter asked for his help to save the kids, and Wally gave them the Void powers. But he also says that after Orokin discovering the Void powers, they start taking more and more power without his permission. How? That missing finger that we have in our Railjack is the source of it. So Wally just wants every Orokin dead. That's why he showed up at the end of the New War, where Ballas died. Now he's after Albrecht.
Remember, he is, at the end of the day, monumental in the Orokin Empire. If you think about it, how many things is only thanks to him? Like, things that happened. A lot. He's probably one of the smartest, if not the smartest Orokin that I have ever seen, at least. And his might, or his power, metaphorically at least, is absolutely humongous. That might just be a representation of how his emotions manifest, and maybe he even saw this and knew this. Also, one more random, kinda somewhat thing that fits into this whole thing. You know the finger that he stole, right? Wasn't there, and correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't there a finger in the spaceship of the operator? What do you call that thing again? Oh no, railjack. There we go. Wasn't there a massive finger at the back of your railjack in the like glass thing at the back?
Well, the same finger can be seen in the Void Armageddon mission in Zariman. I want to say the Zariman spaceship we go to in our origin system is coming from another timeline through some energy void bullshit. But we also saw in the old war cutscenes multiple railjacks attacking a sentient mothership. So Orokans somehow copied the first finger. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense for us to see multiple railjacks powering up easily. So this is another reason why Wally absolutely generational hater for Oricans.
You saw that, right? And obviously, I'm just a baby tenor, so I only know so much, but it's absolutely fascinating to be able to dive into this. In any case, if you guys maybe enjoyed this video or enjoyed this discussion, let me know in the comments. Things are actually about to go crazy. So Warframe or Digital Extremes released their second trailer within 3 days. Now, I had a whole video planned out for the first trailer. I kind of analyzed it and kind of went with my thoughts and what my theories were just as I was about to finish the video. So in the first trailer, you see Mag Prime laying on the ground with a lotus flower, both of them seemingly pretty much dead, just flat on the surface. It's a very desolate space, nothing really to be seen, right? And you have this beautiful, beautiful shanty with the lyrics. Let me just read this quickly. Cast and cry, raise the million pylons high. All our kin were bound to fly for that far shore forlorn. Onward high, who but we may tame the sky? Who but we shall distant die on that far shore forlorn?
Just to let you know, every time I listening to this music, I want to cry. Such a touching music.
And then, of course, they do end up saying, we swore to carry the sacred light of our dominion into the deepest dark. And that is where that ends. That's the first trailer. Well, the first thing that came to mind was the Mag Prime Codex entry, where they actually go over that in the old war, they sent some ships to the Tau to actually fight the Sentients, right? And on one of those ships were Mag Prime. Now, the story in the Codex actually comes from the perspective of one of the soldiers that was on that very same ship. And I think you see him in the second trailer, but
I don't think Orokin era Grenier in the trailer could be the same type of person to write the codex. I think Railjack had their own crew of members, like the Syndicate crews. Now I can be wrong, who knows, but there is no evidence in the Orokin era Greniers could be the Railjack crews for the Tenno.
we'll get into that right now. I'm gonna read the actual codex entry for you guys so you can actually give your own opinion on this. So let me get into that and we'll discuss this further afterwards. We sat strapped in, safeties off, waiting for the punch, waiting for the death. Through my filthy portal, I saw stars among the outlines of the other splinter ships queuing for the solar rail. It would soon grip us with an incomprehensible power and cast us through the void into the mouth of our enemy. I watched the ships one by one bending and gone, each crammed with Zerotech soldiers sucking stale air, white-knuckling their percussion rifles, each filled with a desperation that comes from extinction. Our ship would be the last to cross the gap. Our ship had special cargo. It was essentially empty, just 10 men like me strapped in with the best Zerotech suits and weapons the Empire could build, and It stood in the aisle, a slender and eyeless metal form, a Tenno inside its warframe, vaguely human, vaguely feminine. Was this armor of some ornate carapace for the monster that lived inside? I strained against the harness as the ship yawed for its final approach. I could see the Tenno standing there freely, solemn and gold gleaming, oblivious to the inertial force. I had been until then a Tenno denier. There were ghosts, propaganda, twisted casualties of the Void era. Not possibly real, yet here it was in the flesh. The Empire, in their desperation, was going to turn the demons loose and hope for the best. Who did we fear more, the enemy or this monster? We had our safeties off. Could we trust it? Then it didn't matter anymore. The punch came and our windows became blinding. When we could see again, our ship was somewhere else, shattered and dead in an instant. My lungs were flattened, my eyes full of death. Ship debris glittered like a night snow. The alien blue star was dark and blinding beyond us. The countless articulating worm ships of our enemy ringed in glowing discs, undulating and heat-bursting the surviving soldiers like me. This is where I died. I was caught in Ardisk, sweeping over my right side and setting my blood on fire. My vision flattened, the hearing muffled and buzzed. I could feel the side of my face going slack and wet. I was in a dying dream, I saw a bright spot blurring and weaving towards me. I felt a tug toward it from the metal clasps on my suit. It reached me. Rising up, a gleaming metal beast, a plume of golden wings rising and unfolding behind it. An angel. It snatched me from my death. I could feel my lungs full as it wrapped me in its wings. Its void shield shimmered blue, strained under the enemy beams. I felt a sudden tug of acceleration, closed my eyes and held on like a child. I awoke on the floor, the sting of crisping flesh on my face and side. It was standing over me, the wings gone. I heard the crackling of weapons echoing down the corridor. Maybe the mission would be saved, but I was dying, and so I waved my hands to send it away. I felt a pistol thrust in my hand and I was heaved to my feet. The angel had saved me, pulled me from hell, but it would not pity me. I was to die on my feet, by its side. I turned my good side towards the gunfire and raised the gun. It nodded, its outstretched metal hand surging and pulsing in ancient shapes as blue shimmered around me. It turned, drawing its blade, and together we surged headlong into the hailstorm of death and fire that awaited us. So this piece I actually found on Reddit. Or something pointing towards it. Somebody said Mag Prime went to Tau according to the Codex lore. Tau is in sight. And that is very, very interesting because it never actually directly states that they went to Tau or they actually reached Tau, but it is kind of hinted to that since the Sentients are the beings that was sent to Tau and came back, or that came from Tau at least at the end of the day, and was kind of the main villain of the Orokin Empire for a really long time. Now something else that is very interesting is the term "our history is a smoke" is
So with that logic, the mag in the Codex and the mag that went to the Tau are either complete different mags or there is a time gap between them. Because in the Codex it says that she was saving the Railjack crew, or I don't know, the spaceship crew. But in another part of the Codex that it says that she been in the Tau, well, she wasn't alone. There was other warframes. So I think there had to be a time gap between them. Either this mag is not the same mag, or there is a time gap.
something that is specifically said by Lotus during an assassination mission that you might have seen in one of my previous videos as well, but I'll show it to you yet again right now just so you can kind of have a refresher.
Our history is smoke, blurred by dreams, guided by ghosts. A voice, a void, lurks inside you. Its purpose not yet shown. But what am I?
Alright, so after
Well, I mean, back in the day, it was the sacrifice quest, the ballast, I don't know, new ward, and all of the stuff. The Lotus finally revealed that she's a sentient. The memory wipes. Well, we didn't really thought about Tau in that moment. We just thought that she got somewhat brainwashed. Yeah.
reading that codex entry, it kind of checks out. You have Mag Prime laying on the ground. It does seem like some place that we haven't really seen before. And in the second trailer, the song that is playing in the background of the second teaser trailer has these lyrics, and I read as follows: Velvet blue the meadows lie, though the haughty ones defy. Gold shall never break our tie to that far shore forlorn. Onward high, who but we may tame the sky? Who but we shall distant die on that far shore forlorn? Absolutely beautiful, beautiful song, and the poetry in that, it's astonishing. I mean, I expect nothing less from DE, the music studio that makes games.
That is so true. So true.
But that is not the only thing that we are actually getting. You remember at the end of the first trailer they said, "We swore to carry the sacred light of our dominion into the deepest dark." Well, in this one, that same thing continues, saying, "And this we have done. Swear now to defend this holy treaty." Some of you guys might not know where this comes from, but this whole thing actually comes from the Zariman Pledge, which went as follows. By the glory and honor of the Seven, I give my life to carry the sacred light of our dominion into the deepest dark. In this, we are one.
Well, that quote aged so poorly.
So if you take that and you take the one that we have right now, which is we swore to carry the sacred light of our dominion into the deepest dark, and this we have done, swear now to defend this holy treaty. Well, the first part of that, where they are saying, we swore to carry the sacred light of our dominion into the deepest dark, and this we have done. That means probably we're going to Tau, because at the end of the day, the Zariman 10-0, the Zariman overall, had the mission to go to the Tau system. The next part kinda confuses me, however, where they say, swear now to defend this holy treaty. Are they talking about the sentience? Is there like a treaty between the Tau and the Origin system? Maybe the Orokin actually still wants to overtake Tau, maybe the sentients need some help against another foe. It's all up for speculation at this point, and it will all be revealed in a few days, 4 to 5 days at TennoCon, so buckle up because this is about to get really, really crazy.
Well, if that's the case, then a whole new faction needs to be released. And I'm not talking about the Dags. No, these swordsmen were with the Orokin in the Old War. If that's the case, a whole new faction needs to be created.
So what about my actual theories of what is going to happen? So one of my theories is we are going back in time again. Just like we did with Warframe 1999, we might be going back in time to the actual first war, the old war as it is said in Warframe, where we can actually relive the events that happened when the old war, when they went to Tau and actually went to fight the sentients. Are we gonna see that? That would be an absolutely amazing story to tell, and it won't be the first time where we actually kind of go back in time or maybe revisit some way, shape or form.
Well, let's hope on how far we can go back in time. There should be no way we will be able to go back right at the Old Peace event. Because if that happens, then going to Old Peace should be a permanent open world game mode. And that would mean every one of us should have Excalibur Prime. So definitely we can only play the Old Peace only through our memories. We also cannot use Helmet to go back in the past. DE must do something about the Helmet because the Drifter used the Helmet to go back in 1999. And if every Orbiter have Helmet, then that would be easy for us to go back in Old Peace era. That would be disaster. So there's going to be only two options. Albrecht's Laboratory or Kaya aka Protonova, which again, there must be a limit to how far they can go back in the past. But guess what? Albrecht went thousands of years back in time to reach 1999. And Kaya went thousands of years in the future. So that would be dumb if we couldn't go back in the Old Peace. But I can guess how it would be possible for us to go back in time without getting Excalibur Prime. Simply smash it to pieces. I'm not joking. Make a cutscene where in our memory we went against a super powerful enemy, and in order to defeat it, our Warframe get destroyed beyond any void magic repair. And we will be the only Tenno to lose it. And if there are other Excalibur Primes in that moment we see, then that would represent the founder players. That's the best solution I can come up with at the moment to keep the balance between each side being happy. Well, we can only wait and see how DE going to play this out.
That time, and it would give us a lot of insights into the actual history of the Origin system, of the Tau system, of the Sentience, of the Tenno, and of the Warframes. Of course, I do think, being an it's always Intrati believer, that we will be finding Albrecht Intrati there, as well as that might also be his destination, going to the Tau system itself. Maybe he doesn't have the ability to actually go to the Tau and therefore goes back in time to find that ability, to find the power needed to actually do that. Remember, the solar rail used to actually traverse that distance, I think it was powered by the lost finger of the Indifference or the man in the wall, if I'm not mistaken. Like, correct me if I'm actually wrong, because I might be wrong on that front, I'm not exactly sure. But if that is the case, maybe the only way that he can actually utilize that power again is by going back in time where everything was still actually actively being used, and maybe finding a way to preserve that for some maybe future travel, or maybe he wants to go back in time and change something so that the Indifference maybe is defeated. Maybe that's his whole goal. I don't know. I've seen a lot of speculation around that.
Now there is another problem. When did Lotus put us in the dreaming pods? When did we went to the sleep? This is really important question. This is really important to know, because if we go back in time before Lotus put us in sleep, then we must meet another version of us. And no, wait, sorry. We must meet our past self. And I don't think D wants to do that because we already have another of us from different timeline. So the more I think about it, the more concerning it becomes.
The remains of the old war being scattered across the floor, dead warframes, dead Grenier, and sentient buildings and sentience overall ruling that entire system. Or maybe they are dead as well, and we have a new foe that we need to actually defeat. That can be an entirely new story that D actually pulls through and goes into for the remainder of Warframe. And then, of course, my last theory is that the Sentients themselves take us to Tau to help them defend their system, their newly adapted system, against maybe a bigger foe, maybe even the Indifference. You never know.
Now, I like the idea of we go back in time to face Indifference. After all, for Wally, there is no problem to go through timelines back to future or back to past. But the entire old war was about Oricans and Sentients fighting each other. So it kind of makes going back in time specifically to find Albrecht meaningless. What I believe, we are going to the present of Tau. Because during the old war, there was still some group of sentients that didn't rebel against Oregon, or at least this is what I believe. They actually fought alongside us. We just don't know where their locations are now. They got lost after the old war. So this is my head canon. I think there should be existing.
So, what do you think is actually happening in the new update, or what do you think they are going to announce at TennoCon 2025?